Sign up today for a 7-day free trial at alerts.chartguys.com. Hey everyone, checking in on the cryptocurrency space. Before we get into it, let's just touch on the broader market as a whole. The S&P 500 has recently been pulling back over the last 4 or 5 weeks. We had the China trade war headlines bringing things down. Then we had Mexico thrown into the mix. Since then, we've had the Federal Reserve pretty much come out and say, we're expecting to cut rates. And the market is expecting to see rates lowered as early as June, potentially all the way perhaps to December. But the bottom line is the market is responding really well to that. And since that pullback, and since we got the update from the feds, essentially, SPY has been bouncing for 3 days, and we are now closer to all-time highs than we are to the low of the dump, which was just 3 days ago. So a huge V-shaped recovery yet again at this point, and we're looking back up towards all-time highs. We still need to confirm the daily trend change, but it's certainly important to know what the broader overall markets are doing, because there is some correlation to the cryptocurrency space. Not a ton at this point, but one thing that I do keep in mind, people push the narrative, or starting to push the narrative, that Bitcoin is perhaps a safe haven in market weakness. But it's also the fact that if the market is really strong, higher risk sectors get more attention as investors and traders are more comfortable with the health of the overall market. So that's when the MJ sector, that's when the cryptocurrency space sees monetary influx, capital influx, because there is not this fear in the market. When there's fear in the market, everything really buttons up and people, close their purses, so to speak. So that's just worth being aware of for the broader market as a whole. And it's just another instance of the Federal Reserve doing what it's doing to keep markets propped up. And that's what a lot of people in the cryptocurrency space are waiting for to pop. For me personally, I know they're in control. I don't want to fight who's in control right now, and just in terms of the direction, in terms of trends. But what if they can keep it up for another 10, 15 years? That's just always in the back of my mind when I read people talking about how everything's going to come crashing down. Maybe eventually, absolutely. But what if it delays? What if they can keep this game going, this game of musical chairs? What if they keep it going another 15, 20 years? That's just always in the back of my mind, and something that I consider because I know that I don't have the answer as to when. So looking at Bitcoin, daily time frame looks like a potential little bear flag, a weak bounce, and we're testing the low right now. The low is 74.27, and we just held that level by about $23 or so. So it's a double bottom at this point, but the bears certainly have the momentum in their favor. Looking at it on the weekly time frame, the weekly chart is just looking for a higher low to form. I'm keeping an eye on a gap fill from the futures around the just under 7,200, and I'm keeping an eye on the exponential support on the weekly time frame, which when we get a candlestick change in just a few days here is going to be closer to about 6,800 or so. So those are two levels that I'm watching for. It's clear that sentiment in the cryptocurrency space regarding where we're looking through analysts and social media and all that is a lot of people are looking to perhaps back towards the $6,000 range. So I believe that the accumulation zone is going to be the low 7,000s all the way to the upper 6,000s. And that's where we're going to be looking for a weekly higher low. That being said, I'm well aware that everybody's waiting for those levels, which means we may not get there. So I'll keep an eye on the potential that we end up forming a weekly higher low sooner than a lot of people are anticipating. Also getting some questions about the monthly time frame. Are we in a monthly uptrend? For me, no, we're not. It's the only time frame that's the only longer term time frame that's not in an uptrend. We got the yearly, the weekly, and no longer the daily, but it was the daily in an uptrend, and not the monthly. So the monthly is breaking resistance, absolutely, but to confirm an uptrend, I have to see a higher low and a higher high. That shows me it's not just an initial bull move with shorts covering and bulls running out of power, and then we just fade all the way back down. I have to see that continuation after consolidation to show a lot of power and strength behind those bulls. So we will look for a monthly higher low to form. Right now, we're not consolidating on the monthly yet because we're using every single candle as a higher low. It looks like a monthly inside bar is forming. We've got another 3+ weeks, so a lot can change in that time. If we form a monthly inside bar and it were to break bearish in July, then we would be looking for the monthly higher low to form. So that's the longer term perspective. So as far as the bounces go, we've shifted from the 15-minute oversold to the hourly oversold to the 4-hour oversold now. And in the last video, I said I bet that 4-hour alert is about to go off on our alert system, and it did end up going off shortly after. So the oversold climax fired off at 75.32, and it bounced about 3-4% up to the high. So a nice little opportunity there. And in my opinion, these bounces in the market at this point, the ideal way to play them is scale out some of the position into profit, And let's just use an example here with some nice round numbers. Let's say I entered $10,000 at 7,500 on the bounce, and then we bounce to 7,650. If I sell 5,000 of that, I take half of my profit. I just made $150 profit on half of my position, which means my entry at 7,500, my break-even price on the trade now is 7,350. So what that allows me to do by taking that initial profit is essentially be in full control of the trade and a lot more comfortable. I could put my stop loss below the low of 74.27 and know that if we drop to lower lows, worst case scenario, I'm going to get stopped out with break even. I could also just scale out into strength on the bounce, knowing that a lower high is likely, and we have the exponential resistances on the 4-hour time frame continuing to give the bulls some trouble. Decent little bounce here right now while I'm talking off of that double bottom, but I'm going to have to see an hourly trend change in order for it to be meaningful for me. 77.35. So with the alert system, again, check it out, alerts.chartguys.com, free week trial. One of our members was talking about how they were in the grocery store and that 4-hour alert went off, and they knew off the top of their head what the charts were looking like. They just weren't at their computer at that point in time. Reached into their pocket, placed a market order, got into the trade, and then throughout the rest of the night could manage that trade as the bounce took place. Ethereum on the daily time frame. So also holding support at this point, but close to dropping to lower lows. Looking at it on the 4-hour time frame, we're rejecting from exponential resistance. We dropped down. We held 233 at this point. So support levels are still holding. If the bulls really want to prove themselves, breaking the top of the 4-hour resistances would certainly do so. And remember, if we break the 4-hour trend and change the 4-hour trend, we still have to look for a daily lower high. Because for Ethereum here, anything under 275 is just a daily lower high. And for Bitcoin on the daily time frame, anything under 88.34 is just a daily lower high. So keep in mind that even if we change the 4-hour trends, we are still going to anticipate daily lower highs are going to form on that bounce follow through. ETH BTC still in a fairly tight range, and I'm watching pretty much the action since this big candlestick. And if we look at it on the 4-hour time frame, I can see I want to condense it a bit more. Let's try the 12-hour for clarity. 12-hour chart, we got the high and the low, and we're forming a good old equilibrium. I wouldn't call our lower high being set yet, because again, every single candlestick, well, we did have a little touchdown below there. I watched this resistance of 31.85, but to be a convincing bull break, I want to break 31.85 and 321 at the same time. But it does look like we may need to pull back for another 4-hour higher or a 12-hour higher low compared to 3. So I wouldn't be surprised to see another higher low have to form, but looks like in the next 3 to 4 days, if we do pull back a bit more from here, the next 3 or 4 days, we'll look for a break on this time frame, the 12-hour, that will give us some good indications on the relative strength of ETH compared to BTC. Checking Litecoin out. Litecoin is the same as everybody. Except actually we are daily inside bars, so a little bit different in that regard. So support is 101.05 and 100, and resistance is 105.67 and 106. The 4-hour time frame is an equilibrium, whereas Ethereum and Bitcoin drop to lower lows. So that tells me that Litecoin is holding up a bit better than those names in this current consolidation pattern, and we'll see which direction this 4-hour equilibrium breaks. Right now, I'm looking at support of, I just said the support and resistance levels, so those are the ones we're watching. And I like this pattern for clarity, where the other names broke support, didn't break the second support level, but Litecoin nice and clear, still in that equilibrium. XRP USD daily time frame, 4-hour chart got more bounce follow through, and it was a big upper wick, and it recently happened here. Let's see what it looks like on the 15-minute. Big bull move, gave it all back. Watch for a 15-minute equilibrium, which is likely to form here. But looking at it on the 4-hour time frame, that's much more follow through than any of the names that we just looked at got. So a nice volume spike, and not sure if that's news related or what. I haven't tuned in to XRP yet today, but what that does is makes us zoom out to the daily time frame, because we did get some follow through on the 4-hour bull break. So we zoom out to the daily, and again, anything under 464 is just a lower high on the daily. So it's a glimpse into what could happen with these other names if they do break their 4-hour resistances. We zoom out to the daily, and we still just look for a lower high to form. And we're watching the 4-hour uptrend here on XRP. Most recent higher low is 391, and we'll see how long the bulls can keep that 4-hour uptrend in their favor. BNB USDT is also seeing a little lower high on the daily. Anything under 34.35 is a lower high. So we did get more bounce follow through on the 4-hour time frame here as well, but it's still a daily lower high, and it looks like a bear flag on the daily. 4-hour uptrend being lost would increase the odds that it is a bear flag on the daily chart. 29.47 and 29.63 are a couple support levels right now. So 4-hour uptrends being lost, and we look back to the daily lows of this pullback. Keeping in mind that weekly consolidation is underway on BNB, and the last time that was the case, we hit that 12 period, and at this point, next week, in a couple days here, this exponential support is going to be closer to about 25, maybe the low 25s. We'll have to update that once the candlestick rolls over to a new one. Still very healthy weekly consolidation. And last, we'll wrap it up with Bitcoin Cash. We already formed a little daily lower high. Anything under 452.75 was a lower high. We've got another one here now at 419.20, and we're fading back down towards the low. We lost the 4-hour uptrend, but we are holding the low of support. So the correlation for BCH is much more similar to Bitcoin and Ethereum. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, and BCH have lost the 4-hour uptrend, but held the initial low at this point. Litecoin is in a 4-hour equilibrium. BNB and XRP both broke more bullish on the 4-hour time frame, but have consolidated from that bull break enough that it does look like daily lower highs will be the case. So that's where we stand overall in the cryptocurrency space. We'll be keeping an eye on all these things. 4-hour resistance, short-term support. If short-term support breaks, we shift our focus. For me, it's going to be down. I think it's 71.85 is the exact level for the futures gap to fill. And you can find that gap on the 4-hour time frame or the 12-hour time frame. It's not showing up on the daily chart, but it's on those shorter ones. And we'll check back in the near-term future. For me personally, patiently waiting and lots of volatility and opportunity in the stock market, which I am grateful for and taking advantage of, and patiently waiting for setups that I like for bulls in the cryptocurrency space. For bears at this point, if you are already in a position, you're comfortable and you're using those 4-hour resistances as a guideline. If you are looking to enter a position, you're looking for daily lower highs to form, knowing that when we bounce on a lot of these names, we are just going to form daily lower highs. Let's see this bounce follow through, not huge. But again, Bitcoin just looking for a daily lower high, even if we do shift that 4-hour momentum. And that's that. Appreciate you watching. We'll end here with some bats from Austin, and I'll see you soon. Do good things.